Hey there, welcome back to another video by ChemEnggLife, and this time in collaboration with JobMink Consulting. In this video, we bring to you how to craft a fitting resume as a student. Obviously, that is a very delicate situation because when you are graduating, you don't really have that much to go on. So in this video, we are going to have a look at how you can build up your resume or what sort of sections you can add inside your resume to make yourself stand out among the crowd when you are looking for your very first job. And like I said, so this video has been done in collaboration with our partner JobMink Consulting, and a huge thanks to all those guys for sharing the tips and tricks with us for this video. And if you are someone that is currently in your job search or looking for your optimizing your resume or looking for interview prep or mock interview, then do check out these guys and get in touch with one of the consultants, and they'll be more than happy to help you to land your next job. So let's begin. But before we begin, we are going to have a look at the basic sections of a resume. There are some sections which every resume should have at all time, right? So this is what a very normal, a very basic resume should look like. So if Bruce Wayne was applying for a job in Gotham City, I would imagine that he would type something like this. The very first thing that you need to have is your contact information at the very top of your resume. That should include the very fundamentals, like full name, your address, your phone number, your email, and LinkedIn link if you have it. Do not add any unnecessary detail, like some people add your nationality, or do not add any confidential information either, like your security number or whatever that is called. But keep it very simple, very clean, easy enough for someone to reach out to you. That is like the very first thing that you need to have in your resume. The second thing is your objective and the summary. A very short and sweet 2 or 3 sentences that describes to the employer why you're applying for the job and what really makes you the good candidate for the job that you're applying for. Then obviously you have your education experience, and that bare minimum should have your education. You can skip your high school and secondary school because that is not really that relevant, but your degrees, bachelor's, master's, PhD, any other postgraduate degree that you may have had, MBA, or any other business night school things that you may have done, you can always throw that into your education experience. Then comes the heart of your resume, and that is the work experience, and that should include obviously everything that you have done ever in your life. That includes your internships, jobs, anything that you may have gotten some hands into, anything that you can throw right there. And finally, but not last but not least, then you have your list of skills and certification. That should obviously be a summary of your soft skills, your hard skills, your technical skills, your engineering skills, anything that is relevant for the job that you're applying for should be added into your resume. So all in all, this is a very basic resume. These 5 sections, these are something that should be included in any resume that anyone is applying for any form of job. You can't have a resume unless you have these 5 sections, right? But obviously, as a student, if I'm a young graduate, or if I'm a student looking for an internship or a student job, if I was to apply with this resume, and so were the 90 other kids in my class, there's no way for me to get highlighted or for my CV to picked up as compared to the other one, right? If I graduated with a master's in chemical engineering, well, so did the 90 other kids in my class. But that doesn't really allow me to be different in the job search market. And therefore, we have these additional sections that could be a very good idea to be added into your resume that could allow you to become slightly more different from the other people that may also be applying for the same job. The very first one is obviously internships and work experience, and that is something we already touched on. But as a student, the main thing you should do from these experiences and internships is to highlight the skills that you have acquired and the contributions that you may have made during these experiences. And also, it does not necessarily mean that since you are studying in master's in chemical engineering, that all of your work experience should be directly chemical engineering. It could actually be that you were doing a job that maybe didn't have much to do with chemical engineering itself, but you were, cleaning the tables at a diner, or you were doing something else. Always throw that into your resume as well. It's all about being able to highlight the skills that you have and not necessarily the job titles that you have had. And if you were not lucky enough to land a job or internship, then you definitely should have tested the waters with volunteer work and community service. And if you have done that, remember to throw that in your resume as well, because volunteer work and community service is another way, is an alternative to your work experience and internship that can also highlight your skill sets. For example, teamwork, leadership, time management, and also it also allows you to show to the employer that you are a socially responsible human being. You're not someone that is merely a bookworm, and you understand how to be able to work with other people and be empathetic, and also emotional intelligence, which is a very big word in the job market right now. So that definitely could help you sell that skill in an interview. Obviously, when you are much further in your career, then your academics don't necessarily start to hold much value because the focus tends to go into your work experience. But when you are a young graduate, obviously the only thing that you have to sell is your academic skills, because you just got your degree, and that is like the highlight of your degree, highlight of your resume. So if you have any achievements during your studies, you should definitely put that in there as well. Like I said earlier, that if you are in a class with 90 other kids, the only thing that differentiates, the only thing that makes you different from the other guys is obviously your achievement. It could possibly be if you have a high GPA, you can throw that in there. The question being, what exactly is a high GPA? Because that's very subjective. But if you feel that you have a good GPA, you throw that in there. If you have a relevant coursework, if you have been part of any research projects or anything else, you can throw that in there. If you have any honors or awards received in your academic career, you can throw that in there as well. Academic achievements is once again very subjective. It could be that you didn't necessarily have a high GPA, but maybe you were involved in some very good, clubs or anything else that you were doing. You were part of the debate club. You can also throw that in there as well, because anything that makes your resume, makes your resume better than anyone else, you just throw that into your achievements list. And then we come down to the list of relevant skills and certifications. If you have been part of any certification, workshop, seminars, online courses to demonstrate your if you have been part of certifications, workshops, or online courses, then you should definitely mention that in your resume. If you have a list of technical skills, soft skills, you should definitely put that on your resume as well. And do not be humble, quite frankly. You need to put in as many skills as you possibly have to make your resume shine as much as possible. Do not write skills that you're not good at. That is a very, it's a no-brainer, but still, because it could go very wrong if you are asked about it in your interview. Like if you don't know Python coding, do not write that in your resume. The problem being, if they were to ask you in one of the interviews and you don't really know how to answer, that's gonna nullify all of the other skills that you also have on your resume. So just bear that in mind. If you are one of the ones that were very much involved in research projects and publications as part of your academics, then please do put that in, because that is a huge achievement on its own. And again, if you have been part of multiple projects and you have had multiple publications, then it deserves a section of its own. You don't necessarily need to only write that under your education experience, because it does a lot of things, right? If you are applying for a very technical job after your graduation, or something that is very relevant for your line of study, then your publication and research projects actually show you as a very well trained and very well knowledgeable of that specific area. At the same time, it shows that you have the necessary knowledge to be able to work in that specific field as well. And getting a publication is not that easy either, right? So therefore, having that on your resume also shows that you are a brilliant person to work with. If you have had any extracurricular activities, that normally also deserves a section of its own. But the thing is that having a section into the resume is one thing. It really depends on how you sell it during your interviews and during your onboarding process. For example, if you are part of team sports, it's always a good idea. It's also a good way to sell your teamwork skills, team ability to work in a team, your leadership skills, your time management skills. For example, if you can manage your studies and your activities, that's also something that you can sell in your interview. So it's all about being able to sell it as good as possible. If you are part of any professional memberships, then always put that in as well. Societies or organizations or anything that you're part of, you can throw that in there. The benefit tends to be that, for example, if someone in the hiring committee is also part of those organizations or societies, then you have something in common with that person, and that could allow you to connect with that person during the interview process. At the same time, it also shows your willingness to stay active in the industrial hub of your academic. For example, if you are graduating with a chemical engineering degree, it shows that you're not simply a bookworm, but rather you are also very keen on getting the industrial knowledge. You're very keen in seeing that how the theoretical knowledge can be applied in the real world. So therefore, it really shows your engagement within the industry. So you should definitely throw that in your resume if you are part of any of these organizations. And finally, there are personal projects that you can add. Now, a personal project is something that you did on your own. That is not something that is part of your education or part of your extracurricular activities or anything. If you are applying for, let's say, if you are a chemical engineer and you are applying for a data analysis job, right? Now, that is not something that you strictly learn in a chemical engineering degree. So if you are trying to convince your employer that, I have very good Python coding skills and I am very good in data analysis, it might get slightly difficult. On the other hand, if you were able to do some sort of personal projects, that you built a simulation tool for a distillation column in Python, then you should write that in your resume. And I believe that a lot of people tend to upload their projects on GitHub, and then they put a link to GitHub on their resume as well. But it's always a good idea to write down maybe 5 or 6 your top projects that are most relevant for the job that you're applying for, because it shows a lot of things. It shows that you are not afraid to take the initiative. Secondly, that you are willing to learn something that you may not have learned during your university. And thirdly, that you basically know the stuff that you're applying for. It is very easy for them to take a risk on someone that has the actual proven knowledge of the stuff that they're talking about. So definitely put that in there. But do remember that your resume should not exceed 2 pages. So if you have to prioritize, then I would definitely prioritize these sections that have a star on them. So your work experience, volunteering experience, academic achievements, relevant skills, and personal projects if relevant. But again, if you have never done any volunteer work or community service, then you should definitely replace that with extracurricular activities. But if you have done volunteering experience, then throw that in there and get rid of your extracurricular activity. At the end of the day, you just need to know which one of these things holds more value in the industry that you're applying for. If the job that you're applying for is incredibly competitive, it is something that is incredibly, it requires a great deal of technical knowledge, then get rid of the volunteering work and replace that with the research projects and publications that you may have. So, you may need to obviously figure out the balance depending on the job that you are applying for. But at the end of the day, these are the sections that could really help you make your CV stand out in the crowd. So, for example, what we looked at in the very beginning, that started off as a very basic resume like this one. If you have done all these things and you were able to add them into your resume, then your resume would look something like this instead. Now, be honest with yourself and imagine that you are a hiring manager and you get a resume from a young graduate that looks somewhat like this. On the other hand, you get a second resume that looks somewhat like this instead. Ask yourself this question: which one of these 2 resumes seem to be of a person that has experienced more in his time at the university? Which one of these 2 people seem more experienced? Which one of these 2 people seem to have more skills? which one of these two people seem to have more to offer in the job that you are about to give them. Ask yourself that question. And if you feel that, well, maybe this guy would end up getting the job, you never know. It really depends on the interview maybe, but which person would get called in for the interview, right? And I really hope that you are thinking that it is this guy, because this person is obviously showing that he has been doing a lot more while he was studying, and someone who has a lot more to offer for the job. This person I can easily take a risk on. I would most definitely hire this guy because, all the stuff that he has done. This resume would be something that every single person in the classroom is using, and no way for you to stand out. So that is something that, so that would be one way for you to make your resume stand out as a student, especially when you're starting out your early career. But also, making a resume is one thing, but how do you know which resume actually works, and how can you optimize your resume going forward? And we're actually going to do a separate video in detail to discuss the tips and tricks. But for this video, I just wanted to highlight the main things that what you can do. Starting off with self-reflection of the responses. Do not be the person that ends up sending hundreds of the same resume to different companies. That never works. You should aim to send at least maybe 10 to 15 resumes and then test the waters with that resume first. If you apply for 10 to 15, and the biggest indicator that your resume is working is when you start getting interview calls. If you are getting calls for the interview, that means that your resume is getting picked and it is working. But if you apply with 15 resumes and you get no response at all, well, there might be something wrong with your resume. It could be that some of the sections that you're using are not relevant for the fields that you're applying for. So therefore, try to change stuff and then apply again and then try again. And that is how you optimize your resume by time. Tailor your resume for the application for different jobs. Every different job has different requirements. Every single job requires different set of skills, and you need to be able to show that in your resume. So when you're applying for a process engineer position, do not use the resume that you applied for a data analyst job. When you are applying for a data analyst position, do not write in the skills that you would need to work in a quality professional role. So you need to, and that would obviously require you as a person to figure out what are the skills that I need to apply for the job that I'm applying for. Do they need time management? Then your resume should highlight the skills that you have acquired within time management. It could be volunteering experience, it could be your extracurricular activities, it could be your work experience, it could be your research, whatever it is, but you need to be able to make that judgment based on the job ad and maybe reaching out to the hiring manager or the HR if it's possible. Do not be afraid to seek feedback. When you have a resume, the best way to do so is to reach out to your mentors, career advisors, career counselors, professionals that you may know in the industry, even your classmates. Send out your resume and say, well, could you please spare 5 minutes to look at it and let me know what you think of it. It could also be that someone says that maybe you should tweak this. And the reason I say classmates is because many of your classmates also would have a very good opinion. Some of your classmates could tell you that, I applied in my previous job with this section and they loved it. So that could also be an indicator for you to add that into your resume as well. If you go for a job interview and they reject you, it's a good idea to give them a call right after and ask them for feedback as well. Like, could you please tell me why I was rejected? That also tends to be very helpful. And finally, keep it concise. That is the one thing that we all should remember, that the resume should be clean, simple, and concise, and very, very easy to read for the person. It should only tell the employer what they need to know. They don't necessarily need to know everything about you. They only need to know that you are the fit person for the job. That is it. So therefore, keep it concise. Normally, it is suggested, the rule of thumb is that your resume should not exceed 2 pages. And that is a very common rule. So always aim for your resume to be 2 pages, never more than that. Many people say that for entry-level positions, your resume should be 1 page. But if you have more experience, then why not throw that in there? But that is set in stone that it should not exceed 2 pages. If it's more than 2 pages, you need to cut it down. And most importantly, believe in yourself and believe in the process. It takes a while to land your first job. It takes a while, and it is in any job market, in any time, it is a process that we all have to go through, right? The most important thing is that you need to believe in yourself and also believe in the process that you're going through. And that was the entire video. So thank you very much for watching, and I really hope that you found the video to be useful and you learned something new today. And if you still need help with your job search, then please do visit our partner, JobMink Consulting, and they can help you with one-on-one feedback for your resume, for your mock interview, for interview prep, and much, much more that can possibly help you land your dream job. So visit our website at www.ChemEnggLife.com, and you can check out their services and you can easily reach out to them there as well. And most importantly, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to Chemical Engineering Life channel for more videos on chemical engineering and on job search. Thank you very much and have a great day.